please welcome to the podium so-called Starchild.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, and thank you all for, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming out today. You know, it's always heartening and encouraging when people are willing to stand up for freedom. And I'm the outreach director of the Libertarian Party of San Francisco, you know, and I'm a freedom activist across the board for a whole bunch of different issues. And I've gone to a lot of little, you know, relatively small, lonely demonstrations like this of people fighting for their rights, you know, but we're growing, and the bright side of the fact that government is sliding into a police state in this country and more people are being abused is that more and more people are waking up to the abuse and coming together and standing up for their rights and the rights of others. And the prison industrial complex in this country is surely one of the most grievous abuses that we need to stand up and fight. I was just reading the other day that the incarceration rate in this country, which already has apparently both the highest per capita incarceration rate in the world and the highest absolute number of detainees in the world, is now up to 1 out of every 100 Americans being behind bars. And in some demographic groups it gets even worse. Young black men born in 2001, according to one report, have a 1 in 3 chance of winding up behind bars in their lifetime. And here we have the tragic situation of a hospital, well, an institution masquerading as a hospital, which is really a prison. And this is something that we saw in the former Soviet Union. You know, the Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn talks about, you know, the categorization of political dissidents, of people being arrested for political crimes, being classified as hospital patients and incarcerated in institutions made to look to the world as if these people are receiving some kind of help or rehabilitation, when in reality it's simply a way to continue to deny them their rights and keep them locked up with less scrutiny, the authorities hope, from the media, from the public, from the world. But I believe that we, as the family and friends and some former people labeled as sex offenders, we need to start recognizing that we and the people that we're standing up for are political dissidents. You know, that is what we are. We are political dissidents, because a crime that is a non-violent, a victimless crime, or a crime for, you know, which was an actual crime, but for which someone has served their sentence and is continuing to be incarcerated after the term of sentence, is a political crime. At that point, it becomes a political crime and not a real crime anymore. It becomes a tool for government officials to use who are hoping to further their own political careers and to take advantage of people's fear and demonization that has happened of anybody that gets labeled as a sex offender, you know, to use that label to perpetuate their own power and to perpetuate the vast amounts of money that they are sucking out of the taxpayers of this country. I have here the platform of the Libertarian Party of California, and as a representative of this organization, I'd like to read a few passages from our platform to let you know that we stand with you and we want to help fight these injustices. Under the plank, individual rights and civil order, it says, to commit a crime, one must infringe upon the rights of another. Victimless, quote-unquote, crime laws are a legislative attempt to forcibly limit the lifestyle choices of individuals. We therefore support the following, and there's a list here which includes the repeal of all laws which control or prohibit any consensual sexual activity or soliciting such activity, including homosexuality and prostitution among consenting adults.
Yeah!
We further support the repeal of all laws restricting or controlling the right of adults to make, distribute, possess, or view sexually explicit motion pictures, publications, and other materials. We also support the repeal of all laws prohibiting the electronic receipt of such materials, such as via email. Under Plank 7, judicial, we say the only crimes are crimes of violence or threat of violence, property loss, and fraud. Everything else is a political crime designed by government to take away people's legitimate rights. We support the concept that law should impose penalties proportional to the gravity of the violation of others' rights. And prison sentences should be served in their entirety unless the victim pardons their perpetrator, not beyond their entirety. All persons should be equal before the law and entitled to due process of law. Due process should determine innocence or guilt in a manner designed to protect the individual rights of all persons concerned, both the accused and the accuser. We call for the termination of all preventive detention procedures. No individual shall be detained or otherwise denied freedom of movement without formal charges filed immediately following arrest. Child abuse cases should be considered criminal cases rather than administrative proceedings. Hence, in such cases, the accused is entitled to the presumption of innocence and protection against arbitrary governmental searches and seizures, which now they do under color of parole violations and such. We assert that the serious crime of forcible rape should not be confused with cases of psychological pressure or persuasion if there was no threat of violence or other violation of rights. Nor should it be confused with cases in which an alleged victim was voluntarily under the influence of alcohol or other drugs but was not incapacitated. Psychological pressure or persuasion shall not include threats of violence. We need to stop feeling ashamed as a community. You know, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer movement, you know, of which as a bisexual I consider myself a part. You know, it took a long time to get a lot of our rights in coming out of the closet in this country, because as long as you feel ashamed of who you are, then it gives other people a tool to oppress you and to take away your rights. And made to feel ashamed, like they can't talk about it, their status publicly. You know, I think we need to start printing and wearing t-shirts saying, you know, sex offender, or, you know, I served my time, you know, and all I got was this lousy label of being a sex offender for life. Or, you know, the state sent me to a mental hospital, you know, supposedly for rehabilitation, and all I got was stigmatized and labeled as a sex offender. So I urge all of you here today, and those of you who may be interested in this issue, who are watching this on video, hopefully on the internet or through the media, to think about, you know, all the other marginalized groups that are out there, you know, people who are simply trying to be left alone and assert their rights without hurting anyone else. Gun owners, drug users, drug sellers, prostitutes, clients of prostitutes, clients of sex workers. You know, there's a whole bunch of different groups out there, and I go to these groups and I say the same thing, and I will try to remember to mention this group as well, of friends and family and supporters of people who've been labeled as sex offenders and are wrongly having their rights taken away, because we all need to start working together across these boundaries, because as long as government keeps us isolated in our small little interest groups, we don't have the power. But if we come together and fight for freedom across the board, we will have the power to stand up and get these laws changed and get government off of all our backs. And that is what I am proud to support and stand for as a member of the Libertarian Party, and what I think our party stands for. Individual rights, constitutional freedom for all, standing up for the Bill of Rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is what this country is supposed to be about, and hopefully one day it will be again. Thank you very much.